We're just gonna keep it flowing here. Let's talk about Dune Prophecy. All right, we're going to take a little break inside the checkup for the trailer roundup and Ricky Flick's Max series. This series is coming after Dune Part Two. Its release a couple months back. Dune Part Two is also hitting streaming next week on Max. So it's very it's very intentional to have this trailer and then Dune Part Two dropping on the streaming service. Not HBO series. This is Max, which causes some trepidation. Knowing the history of Max and their original series compared to what HBO completes and like the level of craft of an HBO series. Ricky Flex, what was your reaction? You got a series here. They got Emily Watson and Mark Strong starring. You're getting a story about the Bene Gesserit and its development and how they kind of slithered their way into like these different houses and like how they're kind of like the whisperers that you see in like a Game of Thrones, but just with a ton more power. Ricky Flex, what do you think about this like origin of the Bene Gesserit? Are you in on this series?
Well, after Dune 2, I remember a part of our first reactions was, at least speaking for myself, is that, oh, wow, now I see why they're doing a Dune Prophecy, a Bene Gesserit series, because that storyline in Dune Part 2 was absolutely amazing. It was so interesting, and it kind of just sold me on this series, on like the vision and why it's worthy of, being explored more. There's some good, formidable actors here. You have Emily Watson, you have Mark Strong, like very reliable character actors. And you don't have to you're relying on IP, obviously, but there's no Paul Atreides. He's 10,000 years before him. And we're gonna get into basically how the Bene Gesserit like rose up here. So it's interesting. But for me, it's like, what's gonna be the juice here? Like what's gonna be like Paul Atreides? Like he's the guy, right? Like he has that Jesus Christ or like hero storyline or potentially villain, right? And he's obviously like the juice. What's the juice here? Except learning the Bene Gesserit and like what's going on. I don't know. I think the trailer overall was pretty safe, not really telling us a lot, just saying, "Hey, welcome back to Dune," and that safeness and reliability of the IP has a high floor for the series. But like, where's the ceiling? I don't think it's that high because I don't know what's gonna get me excited really, except just related. This is a project related to Dune.
So when Dune Part One came out, and then I found out this series was happening, and it was initially called Dune Sisterhood, and then it became Dune Prophecy. I'm like, first of all, way better title. And then I would say my excitement was like a 3 out of 10, like to see an origin of the Bene Gesserit after Dune Part One. But after seeing Dune Part Two, you brought it up, Rebecca Ferguson, but also learning about how she is like a member of, she's a Harkonnen, and to see that connection to Bene Gesserit and the Harkonnens, like to see it's going to go 10,000 years in the past and you're going to see the birth of it, but also like how the Harkonnens have always been mixed in with the Bene Gesserit. And to see a figure like Emily Watson almost has like a Cersei type of loom over this trailer, and that's where I get the Game of Thrones. I almost said House of the Dragon. Coming. But we're having a Game of Thrones type of experience here. Also getting to know like the houses a little bit better. I think that's like an intrigue on the show and also reminds me of Game of Thrones or even Shogun. I think that Dune Part 2 definitely jumped to like a 6 out of 10 on the excitement scale to find out about this. And it wouldn't have been excited if I didn't know Rebecca Ferguson was a Harkonnen herself. And also this is about like Harkonnens. I like it. It's like Harkonnens the Bene Gesserit taking the throne, like them finding their way, sneaking into basically moving in and out of these houses, right? Becoming those whisperers, like a Littlefinger, but also that they're goddamn witches, and potentially them marrying into, right, being an empress of like this world. To me, that's crazy. I think that's what the kind of the pull is. Yeah, but at the same time, I'm like, this is a Max series. There is a level of craft to Dune Part 1 and Dune Part 2. We don't have Greg Fraser coming back to shoot this freaking thing. If it's not Greg Fraser, like they try and do a lot with the visuals here. And I'm in my back of my mind, I'm like, this ain't Fraser. This isn't the guy who did the Batman, right? This isn't the guy who always works like who did Rogue One. The guy who is just phenomenal in like with the camera at his mercy and like with audiences just drooling over his shots. I just don't buy it's going to look the same and feel the same as this universe. That's my kind of big question mark.
It definitely can't just because it's not an IMAX and on a big screen like that. It's just it won't. It's impossible. I also want to comment on something too. I said earlier, and you said the Max versus HBO. Yes, this is Max. Do I wish it was HBO? Yeah, but like this kind of had to be a Max project versus HBO because this is a Denny V project. People forget, like he kind of pushed for this. He was supposed to direct the first couple episodes. He had to step away because he's doing other movies. Like
Working on
he's
Messiah.
yeah, yeah, but also the other movies that are coming out that he's related to. So he had to take a step back and just be a producer and not actually direct the first couple episodes. But that's obviously a minus too. But he's still a part of this, and a lot of people that are part of the Dune movies, their fingers are all over this. So I think they'll figure out a way to muster up that excitement level. Just like, will it be to what we wanted it to be for like a HBO type of series? I don't think so. But the quality I think will be there relative to like HBO. Like it's just even though it's Max, you know what I'm saying there? Just because like you're not gonna have the HBO people on it, but you still have the people that did Dune on it.
Yeah, but I mean, like, but Denny is he a solid producer on this?
I'm
I
pretty
mean,
sure he was going to be a director and he helped like put together the storyline for this series. So I think that's a producer role.
okay. I mean, the writing for Dune, very good. Obviously, when you have part one to part two, people marveled at it. People marveled at everything. Part of Dune, part two. Part of it was the performances. Here we're getting all new actors like joining in. A couple recognizable names with Mark Strong and Emily Watson, but we'll see if there's any other household names that come out of this series. 10,000 years before Paul Atreides, like I was thinking, there's other houses we just haven't seen in this Dune world. Like we've seen Atreides, we've seen Harkonnen, and we've already talked about that Benny Gesserit as like not a house, but like this cult, this sect, religious sect. But I was also curious, like maybe we'll find out a little bit more with these houses that we just haven't seen. For as big as the world and feels, how big the scale is of that Dune universe, we really have only scratched the surface in terms of I think the whole scope, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's a good point too. I like that.